the coach. His name was Dustin Felder, because remember, it was an acting class I had never done. So he was like, stand-up comedy is your into the industry.
Of all the teachers, I said the one guy that really made an impact that was palpable and tangible and gave me a different outlook was Bill Hall.
My dad, he's been in law enforcement for over 20 years. He taught like the 4 rules of gun safety.
It was always the Mets, but like right out of the gate, it was Carter and Keith Hernandez. Those were the guys.
I just want to say thank you. I've been watching since I was a kid. Like I watched the Chappelle Show, and we would recite that shit all the time.
It surprised me how much I enjoyed. I coached my daughter's softball team this year. It was one of the best times of my life.
I dedicated this to Angela because I would not have done any of the stuff that I've been doing had it not been for her.
What's up? Welcome to episode number 146 of the People We Love podcast. I'm Adam Choate. If you're new here, what I do is interview people from all walks of life, most often comedians and other entertainment types, creative types, about their lives and careers. The conversation is casual, but I also ask everyone to highlight the people they love, who they admire, who've influenced them, inspired them, or supported them. For more, check out peoplewelovepodcast.com. Definitely listen on and subscribe on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on, rather. And definitely subscribe on YouTube. If you are watching, you are there already. AdamChoit.com for all my other stuff. At AdamChoit on Instagram and Twitter if you would like to follow me. So today we have singer, performer, copywriter, and much more, Juliet Annerino. Originally from Chicago and growing up in a smart family with 4 smart siblings, she has been an intellectually curious person and quite the avid reader since she was a young child. Juliet is a fan of all things the arts and philosophy and has always loved music as well, and has performed the Great American Songbook at venues all over the world. Juliet herself has a way with words, and we dig into many topics, including her admiration for someone else who had a way with words, Friedrich Nietzsche. So let's just get started. Here's Juliet Annerino. Okay, so it's good to see you today, Juliet Annerino. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting me, Adam.
Oh, for sure. How are you holding up during whatever year this is?
2023.
Is that what the one it is?
Is that what is?
Is that what year it is?
It is indeed.
Oh, just make it. Okay, yeah, I think you're right. How are you holding up during this particular one, though? What are we 3/4 of the way there?
Yeah, this has been, I have to admit, a tough one for me because being a writer and editor, and with the advent of AI and ChatGPT, and I recognize it and appreciate it as a tool, but it has infringed, I think, on my business, and also due to the markets in specific crypto and the lack of new blockchain projects, which was really my bread and butter since 2016. That's changed things up a bit for me. So I'm branching out. I'm expanding.
That's good. I want to ask. I want to get in your life and a lot of different things and topics and stuff. But I can't help but want to ask: are the machines going to kill us all eventually?
Probably eventually.
What do you personally believe? Yeah.
I don't see that in the near future, but I know when what they call the singularity reaches us and machines become self-aware, robots become self-aware, that's when that's supposed to happen. They're supposed to realize that we are unnecessary and possibly just dangerous. So they'll do away. I'm not particularly afraid of AI, or even, I don't feel threatened per se by it, even though it has literally infringed on my business as a writer/editor. I just, I'm curious about it, and I want to learn about it as much as I can to be prepared and to be able to use it as a tool, because I think it really is a great tool.
Yeah, I agree. I've started to use a little bit of the AI stuff for creative purposes and research and writing help and storytelling and all those kinds of things. It definitely is helpful. And I pushed it and asked it provocative questions just to test its boundaries and limits. But we can get back into that. Why don't you tell me a little bit about like your background and like where you grew up and some family
Okay.
stuff and
Oh.
even earliest memories. Like, I'll kind of let you, tell me a little bit about the history early
Cool.
on.
Well, I'm from Chicago originally, and it's funny because when I first came to Los Angeles about 20 years ago, people would say, "You have an accent," and I'd say, "Accent? I don't have an accent." I realized I do, and I did. I try to drop my palate a little bit so I don't sound so nasally. But that is just a funny thing that people are unconscious of the way they talk. So in general, the Midwestern way of speaking is supposed to be mostly recognized and accepted accent as accents go. But yeah, it was a pretty suburban lifestyle, although I was I was raised in Chicago. And then I moved to the city as soon as I possibly could because I really enjoy commerce, being around a lot of people, diversity, seeing a lot of different kinds of people, learning new things, especially when it comes to religion, philosophy, and coming from a very strict Catholic background. I found myself really intrigued with the most exotic, the most esoteric, like Buddhism, Hinduism. Anything that could be the farthest from Catholicism was fascinating to me. So I don't know if you had that kind of curiosity. I think the creative people are just hardwired with this kind of curiosity. It takes us outside. What do you think?
I think there's something to that, and I could probably relate to some of that to some degree, I'm sure. What about even in like elementary school? Like, what kind of kid were you? What were you into? Did you have siblings? You said?
Oh yeah, 3 sisters and 1 brother. But I was the oldest of the siblings, but I was always kind of the weirdo, the rebel, the black sheep. So I don't think that's typical as far as there's a whole area of study that pertains to your order of birth. And I think that the eldest is supposed to be the responsible one, but I don't fit that so much. I don't know. I'm the only one here in LA. Everybody else is still in the Chicago suburbs.
I thought the eldest was like the most irresponsible, but makes all the mistakes, and then the youngest either learn from that, or like are able to like do bad things because they learn to do bad things from the you know what I mean. They learn how to do bad things with more success than the eldest one or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know about more success. I don't know how successful I was at being bad, but
not you, but your siblings. I'm saying your siblings learning from you.
Well, now where do you fall in the? Do you have siblings?
I have an older sister.
Yeah, okay, 1 older sister, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I bet she felt that you got a free pass on certain things, right? Did she ever feel that way?
I don't know.
No?
Maybe not. Probably not. We probably got about an equal amount of, we'd ebb and flow. She'd get in trouble for this, then I'd get in trouble for that. She'd do that, we both had our fair share.
Yeah, Josephine.
Yeah. So
the cat that you never see when you come over for salon is suddenly fascinated with this interview.
Got to get the cat on camera. Yeah, you were telling me about your elementary school age. You said were you already a curious kid? Were you doing good in school? Like, what were you into? Sports, art, music?
I was always a good student. I mean, that can be a problem too, because I knew so much. My vocabulary was better than most of the kids at my age, at a certain age, that I would just kind of ride through things and not do a lot of the research, homework, study, etc., until we got into things that really were new to me, like algebra. And then I was set back completely and shocked. Wait, what? So, being like this precocious, somewhat educated at home kid, I think can also work against you if you're in a school setting. But now I'm a big advocate for homeschooling for people who have kids. So
were you the smartest academically amongst your siblings, did you say?
Oh no, they're all valedictorians.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they're brilliant in their own way, but they get a lot of teasing from me.
Wow, I'm guessing your parents were probably smart.
Yeah, I'd say definitely. But I think my education, I have to say, was mostly done on my own. don't credit school with giving me such a great education. I don't have any degree, although I went to college for a couple of years. But you know what Frank Zappa said about college?
Probably something negative.
Yeah. If you want to learn, go to the library. If you want to party, go to college, something to that extent. But, I learned so much just from reading on my own, going to the library. I was taking out books that were meant for kids who are not kids, but students in graduate studies. But I just wanted to learn about psychology and mythology. And these are things that fascinated me.
When you were that young, elementary school, you were already reading about those types of topics?
Yeah.
Where did this maturity or maturity, like, not, this is beyond like curiosity. This is more like it's an intellectual curiosity. Where did like such an intellectual curiosity come from at such a young age? What's that all about?
Yeah, I think being a creative person gives you a curiosity. I don't know if I would call it intellectual, although I was really fascinated with philosophy, which may or may not be categorized that way. I remember that Ralph Waldo Emerson's famous essay. What we read that in, I think, sophomore year of high school, and that really opened me up to the idea of how do we get to believing what we believe? How do we know what we believe we think we know? And what are good systems to understand other people, to associate with other people effectively? What are the best systems? What are the best ways of walking through life? I just thought and how can we be happy? These really intrinsic questions fascinated me. Certain moments and certain authors like Ralph Waldo Emerson, Friedrich Nietzsche, I think I'm a big Nietzsche fan. These philosophers really opened me up to bigger ideas.
Sounds like you're always looking for meaning, even at like a young age, looking for meaning. Was that so you were, it sounds like a bookworm, and you learned a lot by just reading on your own as a kid. Was that a big thing for you? Like,
yes, I think the idea to escape and be a storyteller and listen to stories. I was always fascinated with stories. So my first idea of what are you going to be when you grow up was I want to be an author, a novelist. And then I started thinking, I discovered music and the power of music, that it can carry you emotionally. And I thought, music is kind of like this beautiful stallion, the melody is, that can carry this carriage of lyrics along with it, straight on a direct route into people's hearts and minds.
I'm guessing, go on.
Yeah, this is kind of the moment that I thought, this is something that I want to work with. I want to work with music.
I feel like just talking to other people, like comedians and artists, creative types, they'll have these sort of like feelings about their craft or some kind of art in general, or some kind of cultural thing. Looking back, they'll articulate thoughts similar to what you're expressing. But I feel like you, at like these young ages, already had these deep thoughts about creativity and art and what it means to you, and what your own exploration of these subjects means to you at such a young age. Like I feel like you were already thinking very deeply about these things at a young age, which is not necessarily like comedians will laugh at jokes they don't even understand on some level, knowing that they're funny, and then funny on multiple levels, and then later on sometimes learn the details of why they were even laughing at some adult thing. But at a young age, you especially seem to like think very intellectually about art and creativity. Is there something to that?
I want to talk to you about comedy, because I'm really fascinated with comedy. I really revere it highly. As a matter of fact, I feel that the art of being a stand-up comic is the bravest, the most courageous art form there is, performance art form there is.
I agree.
You think I'm right? You get it. Yeah.
And I mean, I could fairly quickly probably break down my reasons why. I mean, we may have even talked about why I believe this. It's because it combines a lot of things into one. You have to be great public speaking. You have to be great at improvising. You have to entertain. You have to educate as well. but more than all of those things, because other public speakers kind of have to do those things as well to some degree, but you have to elicit a very specific type of emotion, which is the hardest thing to generate in a lot of ways. People have it comes down to a taste, and it's really subjective. Like the humor is more subjective. Like just thinking off the top of my head is something in terms of another emotion. It's like people generally get sad about the same kinds of thing. You can make people cry with and hitting the same kind of notes with a speech or something, spoken. But like laughter, like something that makes me laugh might not make you laugh. And if you're not eliciting that very specific emotional response, you're failing at your job. Whereas like the preacher, the sermon, the politician, they could go through a speech, and if they're not hitting a particular mark, it may not even be picked up or noticed or heightened. But if you have dead silence or people reacting negatively when you're expecting them to laugh, you're kind of failing. So it's like
you're dying.
You're dying up there, like they say. You're so vulnerable. That's why I have such a respect for
you're so right.
anyone who tries it. But I don't know. Maybe there is a harder. What did we say? How did you put it?
I was saying it's the most courageous form of performance.
Right.
Because think of it, if you're a dancer, you're up usually with a troupe, okay? Unless you're a solo dancer. But even if you're a solo dancer, the response you get from the audience is, even if, say, the performance is not great, people will, at least out of a sense of being polite, applaud at the end. Whereas the comedian, the comic on stage doing stand-up, he is completely reliant on whether he lives or dies, right? He's dying up there on that organic, hopefully organic, because fake laughter is, well, as anything is fake, it loses its validity, right? So let's assume it's genuine. He's dependent on that organic biological reaction. And I feel like the laughter can be defined as the heightened sensitivity, the heightened realization of understanding itself. Because what makes you laugh? You see, let's just take, for instance, a pratfall, something really basic, something so silly, okay? We see that Charlie Chaplin is going to trip before he trips. And when he does trip, it just makes us it heightens our awareness of, we knew that was coming. See? And the same thing with any kind of joke. And like you said, and we've had this conversation before, which has made me really interested. You're saying that humor is subjective. Yes, to a degree. And it's interesting that you bring up when the tragedy is more universal, because that's what the ancient Greeks would always say. Well, they didn't always say it, but they would hold that as a truth, because, for instance, they held that tragedies were of a lower intellectual level than comedies. Comedies were at a higher level. Interesting, right? So if you have a comedian on stage, he is solo. All right. I mean, unless it's an improv group, it's something different. But we'll just talk about the stand-up comedian as a performer.
Generally speaking, it's one person.
Yeah, one person. So he's alone. If I'm on stage singing jazz, I have a band behind me. If I screw up one thing, well, they might not even notice it because the horn player is so good, But the comedian, spotlight's on you the whole time. And so, it's all on you. You don't have backup. You don't have support in the same way. And you're reliant on that biological, organic response for not just for your feeling of success, whether you live or die, like we say, but whether your continued performance is at the level you want it to be. Now, that could be argued as to how good a comedian you are, okay? Maybe the real pros don't care, and their performance just gets better. Even if they get booed, it just gets better. I don't know. What's your feeling on that?
It's what you're talking about in terms of it, like if they lose the audience in terms of like that's something more. Yeah, I guess that's more something that's probably more prevalent or relevant with comedy. Like if you say something that doesn't get a laugh, or you don't start strong, you could lose the audience entirely, versus like, if you're doing some other speech about some specific topic, maybe somebody's not even paying attention at the beginning, but it doesn't affect the quality or their receptiveness to the next 10, 15, 20 minutes, however long it is. When you were growing up, were you into stand-up comedy as a kid, or were you watching TV shows and listening to music? What about popular culture in your life as a kid growing up?
Oh yeah, I was always a contrarian, always the esoteric, eccentric weirdo. But I did like some of the people who were popular at the time, which included people like Steve Martin. And I think because what a weirdo he was really resonated with me. He is very silly. But here's the interesting thing. You probably know this. Steve Martin got his master's degree in philosophy, and his dissertation was on Wittgenstein. And if you know anything about Wittgenstein, he was a linguist. The guy was brilliant and complex, absolutely complex. So to have written his dissertation on Wittgenstein says a lot. I mean, this is an intellectual guy. And so I have a strong resonance with comedians, especially today, Adam. It's not so much in my childhood I did, but in the past, I'd say 3 years, if you know what I mean. I have an even greater respect for comedians because they are the truth tellers, which circles back to what I was saying before, in that what they give us when they give us a joke, for lack of a better, a bit, a shtick, for lack of a better term, is truth. They're giving us truth. They're giving us truth in maybe an ironic way, in an exaggerated way, but in a clear way, okay? That's why I like comedians like Russell Brand, Jimmy Dore. To me, these are the truth tellers, the court jesters who bring to the kingdom something the kingdom is lacking, something that they can't, well, in medieval times, maybe they couldn't be beheaded for, making a joke. See, the emperor has no clothes, but who says that? It's got to be the court jester.
Yeah, I people often say, and I do tend to agree, and I tend to gravitate towards comedians and artists and creative types that do approach their craft on some level with the intention of like speaking truth to power or challenging the status quo in some ways. But I guess that doesn't necessarily have to be the only intention or the only purpose of it. It could be to just provide entertainment and relief.
Absolutely.
Like that's there's a need for that too in society.
Joy, it's necessary.
Right.
Yeah, it's healing. I think comedians afford us healing. Yeah, when they point out our idiosyncrasies and our inconsistencies, and if we can face those, there can be a healing, a deep healing.
Tell me about like middle school, high school, where you're continuing to, I guess you said you were starting to get into music and the arts more. Tell me about where we were headed in your life and interests.
So I've always, after I realized that music had this power as a vehicle, literally a vehicle for the word, to communicate more effectively with people. Everyone is more amenable to music. It has a physical power. It's vibrations. That's physical. Beyond just the meaning of the words, there's the feeling of the music. And if you put the two together, see, that's power, right? So I fell in love with philosophy. I fell in love with music and all kinds of music. But I always paid attention when people had very strong emotional reactions to any movement, any idea, any disco sucks. Really? Let's find out why. Let's not just accept this, okay? So I started listening to black music at the time because they were playing disco. And I thought it was great.
Yeah, what is it about, like, I don't know, I guess that's an interesting, like, it's a cultural thing, like how the media, I mean, this happens in terms of sports and especially primarily to some degree in politics, but it's like interesting how like disco, it's just a genre of music, but like why did like society like turn against it to the point? I know that they had that like in, you would probably know more about this than me, or you might know more about than me. I know that in Comiskey Park, the White Sox, they had the disco demolition night, and it turned into like a riot, and they tore up the field, and I guess there was probably violence and fires.
So
all
weird.
Just to bring your disco records, like, and there wasn't even anything about the disco music that I recall in reading about this, hearing about this, that was like, these were, artists or music that we need to like banish because like the artists were like found out to be bad people, or the content of the music was like hateful, or
I know, right? What you're bringing up, I never even thought of. But at the time, it struck me as very weird and unfair. And I thought, okay, it sucks. Let's check it out. What sucks about this music? And I thought, well, I love it.
You know, it's in some ways we've evolved as a society because there probably wouldn't be a disco demolition night, but you just turn into a meme. Like Nickelback, you know,
right.
the band Nickelback, they always get made fun of really.
I know. And actually, I don't have a problem
but
with
they're
them
not.
either.
What's that?
I don't have a problem with them either. I don't see how they're so terrible either.
Most people don't, but it's more become like a funny meme. Like what's the popular band that no one really likes? But I think it's become more of a joke that even the band, from what I understand, may have
Good for them. See, that's what you have to do.
Embraced it, and I'm sure they probably make money. Like people will see them probably even ironically and probably enjoy it because I'm sure they're good musicians and all that. And everyone likes that one hit that they had or whatever. But yeah, you become a meme now. Like no one's going to there's not going to be a Destroy Nickelback records at a ballpark anytime soon. But there'll be memes.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So maybe that's a good thing about memes. But you're right. You bring up something really interesting about that phenomenon of disco sucks. There was literally nothing about it. There were no artists who were caught being pedophiles. There was no, weird violence of this artist or that. It just came out of the blue sky. And I think part of this is another aspect that I embraced characteristically was being a skeptic. Okay, and that's one place where it applies. Like, so why were people coming down on this kind of music? Whereas maybe some other people would say, oh well, it's just because it does. There's no explanation needed. I always had to get down to the explanation.
I think I think hating is kind of fun, I guess, to some degree. But I think maybe this is conspiratorial or something. But I think there's profit to be made. Like anytime people's emotions are high, be it like I love disco a lot, let's buy a lot of disco records. Let's have disco night at a bar. Or we hate disco. Oh, come out to the bar because we're gonna not play any. Whatever it is. Like there's always people willing to, are trying to make money in some way off of. And I guess that's what the White Sox were trying to do that. At disco night,
they were waning in popularity, right? They always say follow the money, right? Don't they say that?
Right. Yeah, and get away from it if it's not making any money more. What about high school? What kind of teenager were you? What were you getting into? What kind of student were you? Tell me about high school years.
Adam, I got to say, I didn't belong to any group. I didn't belong to an ism. I wasn't one of the cheerleaders. I wasn't one of the nerds per se. I was kind of an outsider and just observing.
Yeah, I was going to say you're on the right podcast because that's probably 95% of the comedians and artists were all some sort of I wasn't really part of a group. I drifted between groups. Every group accepted me. I had my small group of friends. I don't know. Everyone always kind of seemed to fall into that category for whatever reason.
That's cool. I think that's cool. I would have one good friend here and there, maybe two. But yeah, I didn't belong to a clique. I kind of always wanted to secretly belong to a clique, especially I think as a girl. I don't know. Well, guys are like that too, though, right? But you guys have sports, more or less. I'm talking about high school,
Yeah.
There's girls' sports in high school too. But I'll never forget. Here's one thing I want to share with you. This kind of clique really appealed to me. It was the theatrical clique. I went to see South Pacific, the musical, with my family. And first I tried out for it. No, there was another play. I saw South Pacific, and I really thought it was fantastic. But the most fantastic thing about it was peeking in backstage and seeing the camaraderie, seeing how they were all hugging and just euphoric afterward, and that they had formed this secret tribe, this fabulous bohemian gypsy group. In my brain, I just romanticized it, right? So after that, I tried out for a musical, and it was one of the big musicals. I could have gotten one of 50 roles, and I'll never forget when they put up on the wall all the names of the people who had tried out with their character names. And there was a huge group of people. And I was looking and looking for my name and looking. And everybody else was jumping up and down and hugging each other again and running off. Oh, I got to play so-and-so. Oh, I got to play so-and-so. And I was one of the last people there. And I realized I'm not here. And, that taught me a great lesson too. sometimes you got to make your own show. Sometimes life isn't fair, or maybe I really wasn't meant to be in that because I wasn't any good. I don't know. I can't say. But the important thing is that I think the DIY thing, the do it yourself and put it together yourself and create from the bottom up, I think that's a good lesson.
I feel like I'm still learning that
Oh yeah,
lesson
every day, right?
Right. Yeah, for sure. Where did we think we were headed? Like either in junior or senior high school, or are you planning to go to college or work or do
I just
something
wanted to be a
else?
musician. I really just wanted to be a musician. And my family was really counting on me going to college, so I was kind of just appeasing them. And I went a couple years to a small college and studied music and philosophy. And I had this great philosophy teacher. He was Greek, and he would just go into these raptures, Mr. Papadakis, and he would put his hand on his forehead. And when Aristotle said, our last day, he brought some Greek wine. Fabulous teacher. Anyway,
tell me more about him. I get, like you said, he brought wine, and what was the other thing and you kind of did an impression of him? But
he would just go into raptures when he spoke about these philosophers, these ancient Greek philosophers, which showed that he loved what he was doing. He loved the philosophy. Oh, that's my cat's back. He loved what he was doing so much that he made us love it too. He made us respect him because he was committed to it. That's what I think it takes to be a great teacher. I don't know, I've never been a great teacher, but I love great teachers. And a few of them have, I think, really, I'm sure you've been impacted by great teachers. I think a good teacher,
a handful,
a kindergarten teacher or with a college professor can really impact your life, you know.
It's funny that you talk about like the passion, perhaps even being more of a crucial or important or memorable thing about him than any specific like lesson that he may have taught you. Because I find that with myself, like sometimes I'll be working during the day and I'll have either like music on the background or if I can listen or a podcast. But sometimes I'm like not even listening to podcasts and I don't know what people are really talking about if they're diving in too much of the weeds about, you know, the finances of football or NFTs or like some topic that I don't know anything about, but I can hear how passionate they are. And that kind of like, you know, and not even just passionate when things are going good for them or they're diving deep into something about the topic. Maybe something's like not going well. They're dealing with some kind of struggle about their whole world, but I can relate and I can hear in their voice, you know, their passion in terms of like, oh, I'm excited about this. Oh, this is going to be tough. I wish this would have gone different. I'm learning this. Like you can hear there's life lessons. And I feel like you can kind of experience like, you know, what someone's going through if they're passionate about something without being knowledgeable necessarily, you know, on the topic at the same time.
It's interesting you bring that up because that's what brought me into studying blockchain and understanding it, because a bunch of libertarian friends of mine were talking about it 2009 when Bitcoin was created. And said, yeah, you got to get in on this Bitcoin. It's going to change things. And I thought, oh, that sounds like a scam. But then I finally gave in 2014 and I bought a Bitcoin. And I think it was like $850. And I was like, big investment. Yeah. So, but I remember reading, who was it? Warren Buffett. Yeah. He said, well, no matter what you invest in, you got to understand it. And I thought, damn, he's right. Why do I have this Bitcoin thing here and I don't understand it? So I jumped down the rabbit hole, as they say, and I became absolutely obsessed. Adam, I was spending like 4 hours a day. And this is before there was explainer videos about it. There was only like nerd to nerd talks and articles about it. And with all of the lingo surrounding it, it was kind of like, the way I think of it, I even committed myself to this. I'm like, well, it would kind of be like if I needed to learn Chinese and somebody just dropped me off from a helicopter into Beijing and was like, good luck. You know, eventually you learn it just by immersion because in context. And that's kind of how I learned what it meant. And then when I finally got my brain around what blockchain meant and how it could afford financial freedom, it was like, you know, they say the Grinch, we're getting to the holidays now anyway. So at the end of the Grinch Who Stole Christmas, they say, his heart grew two sizes. You know, and it's a great kind of way of thinking about when you can't. They say, you know, when your understanding expands, that you can't go back. And I love that idea because I felt like it was so exciting, the possibility that blockchain technology held, which is weird because I always think of myself as an artist and thinking more in abstract terms. But this is how, like you were saying, the passion of other people and the passion of the potential that just brought me in a huge way. And then I was always saying to different people, hey, you should check this out. Hey, you know what's going to happen. Hey, this is the future. Hey, this is our opportunity. And so that's how I got it. A friend of mine who already worked with marketing teams and worked with different clients all over the world. She had one particular client who was specializing in blockchain projects, mostly in other parts of the world. But that's when she thought, you know what? I should bring in Juliet. And that's how I got into that line of work. So that's what I was doing: copywriting, content creation, editing for blockchain projects for a long time.
And you're still doing that? We'll jump around, but you're still doing that?
Yeah, I would do that, and I have done that, but not recently. Mostly now I'm ghostwriting for people. And I have a really fun project coming up. I can tell you a little bit about this without going against any NDAs. There is a woman. She's a businesswoman. She's very interesting. And she wants me to write with her a somewhat humorous telling of her experiences, her romantic experiences through the years from high school. And it's going to be super fun. And it's going to be illustrated with comics instead of photos or any kind of other illustration. So it should be a really fun project. So I'm going to be working on that. And the latest thing that I'm doing is helping someone with their college, well, their PhD dissertation. So, and that's really dry, but it's all, to me, it's really fascinating. So, I like learning new things, and I'm really drawn toward music and philosophy and art, all the arts. And yeah, creating different shows, as you might call them, like variety shows, cabaret shows, jazz, and theatrical productions has been my passion for many years. So yeah, it's a spread out over kind of a broad palette.
Yeah, it sounds like, and that's cool. Like, it doesn't sound like you were. I mean, you've done some similar work over the years, but worn a lot of different hats and done some acting and singing and performing and writing. So I guess kind of catch me up until like when you left, I guess that college to 2008 when you started to dive more into the blockchain and to Bitcoin and then the crypto stuff. Like, what were some of the highlights in your I'm sure, like, your journey as a creator and as, like, an adult in the world? I know that you've traveled a lot. I saw that on your website. Like, so you've performed and been to many places. I mean, I feel like I don't know if we could cover everything in your journey, let alone from college to the late 2008, 2009 years or whatever. But I'll let you take the floor.
Yeah.
And we'll kind of
Travel,
around a little bit.
As they say, it's an old adage, travel opens the mind. And I really think that's true. And the biggest trip that I took, the life-changing trip, it was through an email that kind of came out of the blue. This was before you'd get spam, before you'd have a whole folder for it. 2001, this is a long time ago. And it was from the general manager of the Intercontinental Hotel in Cairo, Egypt. And he was reaching out to see, because I had a website at the time for being a jazz singer, if I would be available to come to Cairo for a 3-month contract. So I checked it out. I spoke with them on the phone a few times, and they paid for my flight out there, and they paid for me to live at the hotel. They paid for my meals, and they paid me really well for performing for 3 months. They wanted to renew my contract, but I had 2 family weddings to attend back in the Chicago area. So I did not renew my contract, which is interesting because that would have, if I had renewed my contract, I would have been there September 11th, 2001. Yeah. So, and there's another story probably for another time. Or I don't know if you want to hear this, but there was a man who befriended me there I was kind of treated like a princess. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but it was true. I mean, the servant people, at the hotel would say, "Miss Juliet, what do you need?" It's very sweet. They were very kind to me, very good to me. But when I sang every night except Fridays, because that's kind of like their Sundays. Okay. And there were people from all over the world who came there. It wasn't just Egyptian people or just Middle Eastern people. There were a lot of European people, Turkish people, some Saudis walk in their full robes. Very interesting. And one gentleman met me while I was walking down the street in Cairo. I would go out during the day and just walk around, which you don't have to wear a hijab in Egypt, but you can't show your shoulders. This is a very, very sexy part of the body there. You got to wear a short sleeve shirt and you're fine. So I was going for a walk one day and I heard behind me someone saying, he must have hit 6 languages, saying basically, hello, where are you from? Who are you? He said it in Spanish, English, Italian, German. I recognized other languages I didn't recognize. Finally, I was so impressed that I turned around. I said, I'm American, okay? And he asked if I would go for tea with him. So I went to one of the beautiful little tea houses they have there, and he told me his story. And I have to think that it was probably true. He came from a poor upbringing. He's a poor kid. And he was working in the Sinai area, which is an area you may know. I don't know how many people know this, but it was kind of an area where the Arabs and the Jewish people would both party. It's kind of like a neutral zone. A resort area, I guess, for lack of a better term. And he was a bartender there, and he spoke Hebrew and Arabic. And so a general in the Secret Service for Egypt approached him and said, "Hey, your Hebrew is really good. We could use you." So he took him under his wing, and he worked with the Egyptian Secret Service, Egyptian military too. So circle back to, he would come and see me sing every once in a while. But interestingly, because he didn't have good teeth, because he was poor, remember? He didn't have good clothes, still kind of poor, even though he had this job working for the Secret Service. Okay. The people at the hotel, I'm talking not about the guests at the hotel, I'm talking about the servants there. They look down on him. Listen, people in other countries, I find, can be very rude as well as very polite. It depends. And a lot of times they're just more honest. A lot of times I've seen that Americans can be, this is probably a whole nother podcast, talk about differences in different kinds of people around the world.
Yeah, you're speaking generally and from your experiences.
Generally from my experience. Yeah. Americans, we feel like we are more immediate, and we do react, I think, more, maybe even more theatrically, more strongly. But I feel like we do have a level of politeness that people from other countries don't necessarily have. You'd be surprised. I was surprised. Anyway, maybe you wouldn't be surprised. But when this Secret Service guy would come to see me sing, and he wasn't alone, a lot of people would be in the room, in the bar, they would look down their noses at him, and they would be like, this guy, not this guy. Even the bartender would hesitate to wait on him. It was very weird. So, but he told me, he said, I'll never forget this. We were sitting down having a drink between one of my sets, and I said, they want to redo my contract. I really, he said, don't do it. Before I could even tell him, I have 2 weddings in my family, he said, don't do it. I said, why? He said, something's going to happen. I'm not kidding you. Crazy, right?
Yeah. But why would, 9/11, there wasn't an attack in Egypt,
no,
as far as.
But when it happened, everything was crazy in the Middle East.
Yeah, shit hit the fan in all parts of the world,
Yeah.
let alone, especially in that part of the world. There was
not good.
a reaction.
It wouldn't be a good time to be in the Middle East. Not a good time.
To be an American in the Middle East, I suppose,
not a
especially.
good time. Would have been weird. Very weird.
Yeah.
So, but traveling has really opened up my mind, and I like traveling to other countries to sing. I like performing with other musicians in other countries. That's the way I usually do it. I usually find a band or find maybe just a piano player or a guitar player. Because if you find the piano player or the guitar player, he probably knows a drummer and a bass player, right? So I would do that and then go to that country and do gigs. I did that in Nicaragua. That was fun. And I had a contract in Lebanon. That was 2009. And then I played some shows in 2010 in Cairo again, just from people I knew there. That was fun. But yeah, I do still like to get out of LA to perform. I still will perform in LA, but it is fun to get to other cultures and share music and share experiences and to learn about them.
Do you have a favorite artist do you have a favorite music artist or favorite songs that you like to sing that are regulars in your, sets, so to speak?
I compose music, but I also sing the Great American Songbook, and I'd say Cole Porter is my favorite composer in that genre. And I think as far as lyrics and music together being a beautiful combination, Sting is a great musician. I really like Kate Bush and Bjork. She's really singular. There's no one who sounds like her and who thinks like her lyrically. And to imagine that English and she has her own language too, Icelandic, and listening to her is almost like listening to a jazz singer because of the free way that she squeaks around. She uses her voice in just innovative ways. I also like Sia. I don't even know if that's the way you pronounce her name. I don't even know. She's a great artist. So many artists I really appreciate. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, it seems like you're very your curiosity applies to all areas of your life, but especially in the creative arts, you're drawn to so many, I'm guessing, different types of comedians too, beyond just singers and types of music. That's cool that because some people are more specific about certain tastes and things like that. But
well, I think I am specific. I'm drawn to elegance, beauty, power, truth. I know this sounds really general, but there's a certain style that I'm drawn to, and that style can be applied across different disciplines, different genres. Yes, that's what I'd say.
Where should we go from here? I feel like we could cover anything. More creative highlights or personal highlights over the years into adulthood and whatnot.
Yeah, I've had such a great time, and one of the most recent I'd say elements that have really contributed to buoying me up in what could be a somewhat depressing era, post-pandemic era, is seeking, finding, and bringing together people who have a healthy curiosity and an active intellect so that we can discuss and learn from each other and take chances. Because I believe that danger, I'm going to go ahead and use that word. I think the element of danger is crucial to stimulating imagination and creativity. And I think this is what makes life worth living. And I think in order to experience that kind of dynamic, it's fire, really, that's the way I'm going to put it. You need to be around other people who can inspire that.
How did you come to that realization? What led to this realization?
I think loneliness. And I always try to think that I can rise above any feelings of boredom because there's always this huge library of books physically and online that I can access and delve into. So I'm not going to use that word, but maybe ennui is a better word. The French, they're so good with words. But yeah, this idea of dread, constant dread, this idea of alienation and loneliness, the only cure for that is curiosity, the edge, going to that point where you have a necessity to learn more, or you're exposed to other people and other resources that can feed your curiosity. Curiosity, I feel, is a flame that it hungers for that kindling. And that kindling we only get from others. And we get from specific types of fuel. We need that kind of fuel.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to that, and I could relate to that, a lot of that too, I think, because I think about myself, maybe not the bookworm that you are and have been, but like in terms of like, oh, I can entertain myself. I'm a curious person. I can exercise. I can watch movies. I could play music. I could play guitar. I could work on my own stuff. There's always something to work on or to work towards or to
There you
do.
go.
But even if I'm learning from YouTube or reading a book or watching a movie for inspiration or working on my own thing or whatever, at some point you do need to like interact with other people, even if it's just like if I go a day, if I'm just kind of doing my own thing within 24, 36, dare I say even like 48 hours, I'm going to be like, oh, I need to like do something more social, even if it's just bounce an idea off somebody or get their input on something. Like, so it's like, yeah, you feel it in your bones, this need to connect with others and to learn from them, but also like just to learn from that and vice versa. It's a whole symbiotic thing. I'm rambling, but nevertheless, you get where I'm going.
It's symbiotic. That's a good way to put it, Adam. That's a good way to put it. You know, even when, like, think about therapy, okay? The talking treatment, therapy. A lot of times, and I think friends are kind of therapy, and even a therapist can be a kind of friend that you pay, which is kind of funny. But it's even just hearing yourself say certain things and bouncing that. I like the way people say, I need a sounding board. Can you listen to this idea, bro? You know, bouncing your ideas off someone. And even if you're in person, especially, because I think that's an integral part of this process, even looking at your friend's face when you say, I got this idea, tell me what you think of this. If your friend is wanting to be supportive, but in their heart of hearts, they're thinking, this is a little too far, Adam, or Juliet, this is a little too far. You'll see it. You'll feel it. Tell me this. Have you ever gone to a movie with a friend and that person didn't even say anything like, oh, this movie is, or this movie's great, but just seeing it with that friend influences, you could feel that your impression of the movie is influenced by that friend. Have you ever had that feeling?
Yeah, it says so for sure. I can't think of an example of how that manifested itself, but I'm certain that I've had that experience.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And when I realize it, I think, oh, that's because Joe wasn't liking the movie, or that's because Tina was really liking it and it made it funnier for me, you know? I could think of an example. I do think the movie's good, but when I saw it the second time with my sister, I thought, oh, it wasn't really that funny. It was just that when I saw it the first time, I was having such a great time seeing it with these three friends. It's a quirky movie. Excuse me for bothering you. Sorry to bother you. Did you see this movie, Adam? Sorry to bother you.
Not. I guess not.
The guy's name who wrote it is Boots somebody. But it's mostly black cast, and it's kind of hilarious, but it's also kind of dystopian and serious and very weird and interesting. You got to see it. Sorry to bother you.
That's cool. Yeah, no, I feel like we've covered a lot of your musical artists influences and creative influences. What am I forgetting to ask about or talk about, or are there inspirations for you? From Waldo Emerson to Bjork to Russell Brand, it's cool to hear about it.
And Nietzsche, Friedrich Nietzsche, even the really depressing guys. I think.
Yeah, why Nietzsche? Why is he
Nietzsche
the
was
top of your
so
list?
poetic and powerful, and he was beautiful. I'm just going to say it. The way he wrote was beautiful. And same thing can be said for Oscar Wilde, although there was so much danger and I want to say even ugliness in his writing, and in Nietzsche's writing too. You know, he was very strong. He would not go easy. And I think he did that on purpose. I think he didn't want people to, there's a quote. If I could access it accurately, I would quote him, but I can't accurately. I could summarize it for you. Basically, he says, yeah, this was in Thus Spake Zarathustra. Thus Spake Zarathustra. It's one of my favorite books of all time. Okay. And it's basically parables. And Zarathustra says, I wish to be read, some wish to be read by words. I wish to be read as in blood. I wish to be memorized. He said, I wish to be memorized. When I write, I wish to be memorized, not to be read. And so he was drawn to aphorisms. He was drawn to these strong statements that people just would be hung up on. People would be dazzled by. And it could be a superficial way, or it could be a very deep way, very basic, a way that shakes you to your core. And that's how he affected me. So, but yeah, I'm influenced by people like that. People have statements to say, statements to make, people who don't necessarily want to be loved by everyone, but they want to be recognized and heard. I think to be heard. Those are the kind of people I love. Yeah.
It seems like he had just so many, I guess, quotes. He's someone you seen quoted a fair amount. So it's like, I don't know, it's like some of the forebears to memes in a lot of ways. Like these dudes, like all these like ancient dudes. These quotes are really just, they're all just like memes. And even like thinking about like political cartoons being such a part of history, always like those are just memes, and those are just like, another form of the court jester, as we were kind of talking about the role of the comedian. It's like, it's just another form of that. Like it's always been a necessity in society.
Yeah, I mean, you probably are familiar with Joseph Campbell and his, mythology and the journey of the hero.
Right, a little bit.
Storytelling, because you're a storyteller. It's really so true, and that's why I love to study mythology, because when you get into what really makes most civilizations, what makes people take heed of stories is that they follow a certain, I don't want to say pattern because it sounds like it's rote. It sounds like it's predictable. And sometimes it is. But this is what resonates with people. That's why I think, here's a concept for you, Adam. I feel that a catchy song, there's something about a catchy song that really makes it sacred. That gives us a sacredness because it resonates with people. What makes it stick in your mind is that there's a truth to it. And I'm not saying all catchy songs are great or all songs should be catchy. No, I'm just saying that that's an element that I think is underappreciated and kind of sometimes even trashed. Oh, that little ditty, doesn't have value. And complexity on its own, I think, has no value. Complexity within a certain framework where it has the music to it. It has some kind of a design, a grand design to it. That's where the beauty comes in.
I think a lot of it is in the details of whether it's a song or whether it's storytelling. Because I do agree, there's only like in traditional storytelling, there are certain archetypal beats or certain like storytelling beats and acts and structural things. But it's in those details of when a character is at their lowest or facing a plot twist or an inciting incident or whatever, literary storytelling, screenwriting terms, dare I say, that one, tends to adhere to. A lot of these beats do translate from story to story to story, but it's in those details, in those moments, in those lines of dialogue or those things that you hear or see, or the way the character looks or gives a certain expression. And in the music and whatever, the delivery, it's like all the little details. I think that's what gives it the color. Yeah, we know we're going to introduce a world, and then something's going to happen, and they're going to be in the act one, and then there's going to be a midpoint, and then there's going to be some sort of downfall and a client. Like these are like, it's not that we're it's the details which make us really, I think, remember art. It beats music. Like, yeah, there's only a finite amount of chords, and there's been a million progressions that are D, C, G, but it's the way Tom Petty said a particular line on a particular song that makes it a hit and makes, separates him. His tone is unique.
Yeah.
Just thinking in terms of music.
Yeah, definitely. It's the nuance. And I think the passion has to live behind the nuance in order to give it meaning.
What about ghosts and aliens? Do we believe in those? Have we had any experiences with either one, UFOs or, creatures or anything like that in terms of the aliens?
Not had an experience with an alien or a ghost yet.
It's a little surprising. You seem well connected. You seem like you might be connected.
Well,
I mean that as I don't mean that. I guess I don't mean that as a compliment or a negative. It just is. It just
interesting.
is.
It's interesting. I have delved into the occult. It's
I hope not too far.
It's fascinating stuff, you know. I have, yeah, I mean, I've read about it. You know, I haven't like.
I would tell people that. I wouldn't say I've delved into. I would say you've read about it.
Yeah, I've read about it, and you know, just looked into it, and it's interesting. But you know what Nietzsche said: careful when you look into the abyss, for the abyss also looks into you.
What does that mean?
Well, that's a good question. We can look at that. We can look at that in so many ways. Well, for instance, war. You know, people get obsessed with something like war, or something like the occult, or something that's dark. Okay, what I noticed when we were going through the years of the oppressive government.
These things change us then more than our interest in them could consume us and change us who we are, and sometimes for the negative.
Yes, exactly. If you spend time is our greatest commodity. I mean, if you spend your greatest commodity in something that is dark, it's going to seep into your being. So you do have to parse out, boy, how much am I really going to spend with this? And how much am I going to spend with that? And how much I want this to influence me? Because your surroundings do influence you. That's why I try to surround myself with good people, good everything, you know. I mean, that's what we all should do. But when you find yourself, oh, I'm spending a lot of time with these people who are negative, or, you know, reading negative things, well, then it's going to come into your being, right?
Yeah, that's what our overlords want, though. But that might be a different conversation for a different time. So no ghosts. I was going to say no ghosts, but maybe aliens, or no aliens either, or no. What's that?
None, yeah, and I'm
no personal experiences.
Totally open to it, but hasn't.
You're totally open. Yeah, you're totally open to either, though.
Yeah, hasn't come to me, so I can't really say. Yeah. How about you? Have you?
Have I had personal experiences with either? I guess I have not.
All right. Okay.
We'll see. I mean, I guess I'm more open than ever to believing in both in some capacity. I don't know what that would look like, but nevertheless, I'm not going to doubt. I'm not going to doubt aliens or ghosts exist and then get haunted and or abducted just so they can appear to be like, yeah. Oh, you don't believe in us now? Watch us. I'm gonna get haunted and prodded at the same time by two different creatures. Could make for
a very uncomfortable situation.
I'm gonna get double teamed. I don't even want to think about that. But on that note, I think we've covered it all. We've covered a lot. I'll probably use in my title a little clip of either you talking about Nietzsche or Bjork, or your philosophy professor in college seemed to be an interesting character. Anything else we need to cover or talk about? Anything you want to promote or plug, or websites or social media things?
Yes, thanks, Adam. I can say, if there's anybody out there among the masses of you who listen to Adam Choi's fantastic show, and I know your numbers are going up, like you're blowing up. Let's face it, dude.
You're saying all the right things.
You are blowing up. Then if you'd like to write your memoirs, but you don't know how to approach it, and you'd like to hire a ghostwriter, you can find me. You can go to tellyourstorywithus.com. Tellyourstorywithus.com. And I will tailor a program where we can work together and you can tell your story.
Cool.
That's right now. In the future, there will be performances. There will be cabaret shows. There's something called The Eccentrics, which is a show. So there's a lot, on the horizon. It's on the horizon.
Anywhere else people should find or follow you personally, specifically, or?
Yeah, Twitter is at Juliet Annerino. And,
two N's, right?
Yeah, 2 N's. Good point. 2 N's, 1 T. Juliet, like Romeo and Juliet, like Shakespeare spelled it. And Annerino's pretty phonetic, but 2 N's. 2 N's and then another N at the end.
Cool.
ANNERINO.
Well, good stuff. Like good stuff. Good stuff all around.
And thank you, Adam. I really appreciate you inviting me on.
Of course.
If you're curious about the show that's in the works, go to theeccentrics.com. theeccentrics.net. Theeccentrics.net.
At Juliet Annerino on Twitter.
Yeah.
Theeccentrics.net. And what was the writing?
Tell your story with us.
Tell your story with us. .net was the other one.
Theeccentrics.net. This is Josephine.
No, won't tell your story.net.
No, tell your story with us.com.
Tell your story with us.com. I'm trying to help. I'm trying to be helpful. No, I like cats
Great.
too. Cats. What was it? Which cat was that?
That was Josephine. The one you
Josephine.
never see.
Yeah, you would have a cat named Josephine. That sounds like. I believe that. Anyway, thank you again. Let's talk soon.
I'll see you soon.
You got
Bye-bye.
it. Bye-bye. So there you have it. Episode 146 with Juliet Annerino. Juliet really does have a way with words, and I always enjoy having conversations about all sorts of interesting topics with her. I definitely appreciate the time again. Anyway, for everything about this show, of course, head to peoplewelovepodcast.com, adamchoit.com for all my other stuff, at adamchoit on Instagram and Twitter. But I think that's about all I got for today. I appreciate you guys listening and watching. Thank you as always, and let's talk soon. Peace.